Just do it.
I like how in Impulsive they just kind of like start, you know. Yeah, it's kind of good. And same with who else do it? The Premier League, you know, the Premier League.
Yeah,
guys, they just kind of start talking and they're still getting their makeup done and they're still setting up, and that's actually the shit that people really want to see. I think it's like the behind the scenes of the Spodcast.
Instead of being like, hey guys, we're here.
Yeah,
welcome back to the episode.
Yeah, instead of it being like,
I'm your host.
I guess it makes more sense for the visual aspect for somebody who's watching rather than like listening, because if they're listening it's like, all right, let's get straight to the value. You know, what's in this for me? Like, so Corey, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
How does it feel to be doing your first podcast?
It's exciting.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Usually you're on the other side. You listen to most of our stuff, right? Like, you listen to most of our podcasts.
I think I've listened to all of them, yeah. I listen to a lot of podcasts. So, yeah.
Didn't learn anything.
Just learn nothing.
There's not a drop of value in any of them. Oh.
No. But yeah, we're happy to be breaking your podcast virginity, which is awesome. Super exciting. This has been a long time coming, I feel, this conversation.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, the recorded version, we have plenty of conversations.
Yeah.
And we have had plenty of conversations in the last however many years that we've known each other. We first met Corey in Sydney at our Elements course in 2021, I believe.
I think it was, yeah, way back.
Yeah.
What feels like now, anyway.
Yeah. How old were you then?
2021, I would have been 19.
19,
yeah.
Doing 100 haircuts a week.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that was the time. Trying to do 100 haircuts a week anyway. Yeah.
Crazy, right? To reflect upon that. So that was when we met you, and then you've been pretty much involved in most of our things.
Yeah, I think that was the start of it, and then in the following year, 2022, that's when we started sort of obviously seeing your stuff online. We started working together. It started 2023, and then since then it's only been up.
It has, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's been great. It's been awesome, man. So we're in Glasgow at the moment. We're at the Premier Inn in Glasgow, getting ready for the Great British Barber Bash, where all three of us are doing a piece, doing a segment. This is your second time doing the Barber Bash now, Corey, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. I did it in London as well. And you guys are there, obviously. Yeah, it's exciting. It's good to get out there and sort of, not on stage, but, you know, in front of a crowd, and sort of, after a few times, you get used to it, you know what I mean? Obviously, the first time I did it back in 2022, was it 2022 or 23? Last year, at Hairfest, with you guys as well. That was the first time I done that, and that was...
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
that was the first time I was cutting.
That was cool.
Mm.
Yeah.
The Barber Hub.
What have you learned since that point?
I mean...
Doing those kind of live things.
For that one, I was obviously so nervous, you know what I mean? First time. And then even just doing it a couple months ago in London, it was such a different feeling, because I sort of knew what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
And that one, I feel like I got thrown in the deep end, in terms of, like, I was the first one up that day as well. And I was like, how do I approach this? But yeah, I've come a long way since then, obviously. Way more comfortable in front of crowds and things like that. So it's sort of, yeah, when you settle into it a little bit more, you can give more value, and you can talk to people more openly instead of being so rigid with it all.
Yeah. I like to call that like exposure therapy, you know? Yeah. It's like the more times you do something, the easier it gets. You know, and even for us, like, we'll be on stage later today, and, like, as you know, we don't really like cutting hair on stage anymore. But today we will be doing hair because we're sharing the stage with other people, so there'll be a haircut behind us that we've done probably. And we, like last time at the Barber Bash, just scissor over comb the whole thing for 40 minutes. But it's exposure therapy. And it's funny, it's mad to reflect on your journey, Corey, because I remember a point in time when we were working together where the exposure therapy was actually, like, part of, like, your goals that we created.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
remember that?
I remember that right at the beginning. I was sort of, yeah, basically wanted to get comfortable in front of people and talking more, and just, yeah, getting myself out there, basically.
Mm.
Letting myself be seen and putting my brand out there. obviously that sort of happens day to day now, and I don't even really think about it. Whereas before I was sort of like stressing about it. I had to write it down to make it happen. But now it sort of just happens.
Yeah, crazy. What an experience. I remember having a conversation about cold showers once. And it's come a long way from that conversation, because that's where the like exposure therapy stuff really starts. You know, I think cold shower can change someone's lives, or change someone's life. You know, just starting there.
Great place to start.
Now you're running fucking 50, 60
Yeah.
a week, but then in one day as well. Crazy. Yeah. It's been quite a journey, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's interesting how starting something small like that, it will sort of just put you in that uncomfortable situation, and then sort of becomes second nature for you. And it doesn't stop, right? You just keep getting more and more intense and take it further and further.
It's almost like the brain feels like it's got some catching up to do. You know, it's like, I can do that one now. Oh shit, I can do this one now, and it escalates really quickly. I love that. I think that's part of the modern condition, isn't it? Like, life doesn't really test us like that physically anymore. Mentally it does, but not so much physically. And once we unlock that physical kind of struggle a little bit, it's amazing what it does for the mind.
Yeah, definitely. Like, you can sort of just go through life and not really push yourself.
It's fairly comfortable. Fairly comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah, and you'll never know where you can go with it because you haven't tested it.
Once you start doing hard things, all of the other things become so easy. Like 90% of life becomes so easy in comparison to like the hard things. But if you have no comparison, or you have nothing to compare it to, it's really difficult. Like, so for example, like, I'll start every day with the cold shower pretty much like 90% of the time, unless I'm really like fucked. And like, I think, you know what, maybe the body doesn't need the exposure to this right now, but like 6 days a week probably I'll do cold shower from the beginning, cold as it gets, and it's a win in the morning. It's like I defeat that little voice in my head that says, oh, you can't do it, or don't do it, or like lean into like the mediocrity that exists in the world, because it's fucking everywhere. It's actually not that hard to stand out. Literally, if you have a cold shower every day, you're probably amongst the 1% or less in the world who do that, because we're addicted to comfort. And there's so many hidden lessons in there, I believe personally, so many hidden lessons within just like the cold shower thing. It's funny because when you're not the only one that, like, when we started working together from a coaching perspective, that I would say, all right, we're putting it in your like goals, like you do a cold shower every day. And it's like, fucking hell, here I am to learn about business and how to like build my business or grow my brand or like charge more money for haircuts, and he's telling me to do a fucking cold shower. What's this got to do with it?
Yeah, well, it's like the Mr. Miyagi thing, right? Wax on, wax off, and he's teaching him how to learn karate, but he's doing wax on, wax off all day. Like, it's principles, right?
It's principles, yeah. It's discipline. It's the person that you have to become rather than the things that you have to do. And I remember having that chat with you in Bali as well. Corey's been everywhere that I've been this year. We're spending a lot of time together,
following you guys around.
Yeah, it's cool, man.
Going on the world tour.
Absolutely.
It's great.
You're part of the team now. But what I really want to highlight, and one of the reasons why we really wanted to get you on the podcast, was because for somebody who is 22, right?
Yeah.
I always mix it up, 21, 22.
Yeah, 22 now.
22, to be doing what you're doing over this side of the world, having done what you've done in the last couple of years in Sydney as well, and in Australia, and now to be over here this side of the world doing what you're doing, it's rare. And it's nice to be able to share that, say, with like whoever's going to be listening to this. There's going to be young kids in Ireland listening to it. There's going to be probably young kids in Australia listening to it. Even older people who haven't maybe pushed themselves outside of their comfort zone. I think that's a great point to bring up there, is like the comfort zone. It ties in nicely with everything we've spoken about so far.
Definitely.
But what was it that made you want to move over here and push yourself out of your comfort zone? Because you had it quite comfortable in Sydney, right? Like, it was nice, it was cushy. Like,
it was nice, yeah.
I was even thinking, I was like, fucking hell, Corey's going to go to London now and just leave this behind. Obviously, you can go back to it.
Of course.
You know, you set it up in a way where you can still go back to it. But, like, yeah. What made you want to make the move and jump into it?
Even though you're saying, like, it's, like, rare or it's a big decision or things like that, but from my point of view, from my perspective, it wasn't really that, like, obviously it's a big move and stuff, moving across the world, but it wasn't that deep because it's a decision that I can sort of take back, you know what I mean? Worst case scenario, I could get on a flight and I could be home in 24 hours.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. It's only a day away.
What, really?
Yeah.
It's far, but it's not that far in the whole scheme of things. And like, yeah, what can I lose? So like for me coming over here, obviously it's a big step, right? But because I surround myself with people like you guys and people that are doing either going back and forth constantly or different countries constantly, it was sort of just like, well, these guys do it every week, or these guys travel back and forth and they're coming back to do this and then they're going back to Australia next month. Like it's not that much of a big deal for me. It was sort of, because I've exposed myself to you guys, it was sort of an easy decision to make. Because like, why wouldn't I come over here and experience what it's like to work here and to live here and travel around a little bit? Because if I stayed home, I would have never known that, like we were speaking about before. Like I wouldn't have, obviously now I realise Australia's beautiful, it's home, you know what I mean? I always go back there. But it's good to come here and experience this life and this lifestyle, because now when I go back home, I'll be like, I've done it. And it's not something that I've left unticked.
I love that you've kind of, by osmosis, picked up on the fact that, you know, if I really want to get the most out of my life, I need to like travel. Like that's the thing that you wanted to do. Remember you telling me a story about like in school, or did you write something down about like you wanted to travel or something and your mom showed you? Yeah,
that was funny. That was a big moment of realization on the way over here. Literally, I think I landed in London and my mum sent me a picture of of my yearbook when I finished school in 2019. And something I wrote down was, one of the questions were, where do you want to be in 5 years? Or where will you be in 5 years? And my answer was, somewhere overseas traveling. And I sort of forgot about that. And then 5 years later, surely my mum had it sort of in the back of her mind, you know what I mean? She's like, oh, I just found this. There's no way. She definitely did. She knew it was coming, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I just packed all my bags and moved overseas and made a big decision to stay here for 2 years or however long I stay.
Yeah.
And it goes back to, and it's just like, wow, that's what I said 5 years ago, I'm going to do it. And I sort of forgot about it, but I still done it. Interesting to see. Very interesting.
Yeah. I think like the osmosis thing is cool because, you know, I think there's a massive part of coaching, like say coaching and mentorship, right? That's where most of our relationship was built, is through the coaching and mentorship space. And you being in AMP and us working together. But a massive part of that that's kind of underappreciated is like what happens by osmosis, like just being around people and just being in an environment and picking up on the things that are not necessarily taught. So there's a saying that we like to say, it's like most things are caught, not taught. Yeah. Like you just catch on. It's like, oh, these two guys are from like the UK and Ireland and they're over here in Australia and they're doing all of this. It's like in the back of your mind subconsciously it might have been like, oh well, maybe I should go overseas as well and like have that similar experience because this is what they've done and look at what they've done through doing this. And it's really interesting to observe that you've picked that up.
Yeah.
Obviously you wanted it for a long time as well. That's been something that you've always probably thought, but
yeah, experiencing that sort of coming to my mind, obviously subconsciously I didn't make that decision and be like, oh, I'm going to move overseas because these guys have done that. But it sort of just starts to unravel in your mind. You're like, you don't even realise you're making a decision, but you are, like, in your subconscious, you know?
We would have probably had many conversations as well about like what was happening in the industry over here and the standards and the different things that you could learn from being here. And like, it's very admirable for you to have come over here, leave what you have left behind in Sydney in order to like gain experience and skills and knowledge. Like that's very wise of a 22-year-old to do that, because most 22-year-olds at the moment, especially in the barber game, are just obsessed with like the numbers and the money and like like trying to get to 10k a month or 50 or whatever, 25k a month that Henry's promoting. But like they're missing a lot of the skills that will actually delay them. They might just stay at 25k a month. It's like, what about when you want to level up to the next place? you know, you're going to need different skills, different knowledge, different expertise.
That's why I came over here, right? Like I obviously knew I was going to sort of not even take a hit, but I knew that I was going to sacrifice those sort of monetary gains in the short term to move over here and just gain experience, which is something that you can't get back. Like you can only be in London when you're 21 once. You know what I mean? If I go when I'm 30, I'm going to experience it differently. So like experiencing it so young is, I feel like that's something that those guys that are staying home and they're trying to make good money now, what if they, exactly what you said, like what if they get stuck at that point? And I'm coming here, gaining the experience, gaining the tools, the knowledge from different people in the industry, people even outside the industry, where when I go back home, I can bring that into my skill set and do my thing there as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, like we spoke about when the decision was being made, it's like, it's bringing so much more value to you as a brand. Like if I was to go back to Ireland now and set up, like it would be easy.
Yeah.
I'd be straight past everybody on a price point level, you know, like because of the brand that, say, I built over here, or in Australia, I should say. But yeah, you couldn't have did something similarly, didn't you? You were 22 or 21.
I was 20.
20.
Yeah. I completely like resonate with your experience. It was one of the best things I could have ever done.
Yeah, well, show now, yeah.
Yeah, I learned to be an adult. I learned to be a man through that. You know, I don't think I'd be who I am now if I stayed at home. I might have been similar, but the comforts probably would have held me back a little bit. Yeah, like you say, it really helps you to push your skill set. You have to use your skill set to its best to get to where you want to go. There's like a back up against the wall mindset of like, well, I kind of got to make this work. You know, no one's going to save me here. Exactly. You know, no one's going to save me now.
Yeah.
Let's make this work. And it's not like if you run out of money, you can just go and stay at mum's for a couple of nights while you get your shit together. You can't do that.
Yeah. You know, the things that people talk about, like the skills that you gain, it's just like problem solving, really.
Yeah.
Problem solving in life, basically.
Constant critical thinking, and I think this is where maybe our wires get across a little bit, and our message is a bit hard to get out to the world in terms of like coaching and your financial ability and stuff like that. Like I think for all of us here, moving overseas and doing what we need to do, we know we've got to have a rainy day fund. We know we've got to save a little bit. We can't just be going out and spending all our money and doing this. It's like, no, you know what? This is a back up against the wall moment. I've got to save a little bit.
Yeah, cool.
I've got to stay healthy. You know, I think life brings you to a new level. You're like, well, if I get sick, I'm kind of screwed because I'm away from home. That's not going to be pretty. If I run out of money, that's also not going to be pretty. I remember before I was leaving, my dad used to work with, there was a fella that had just come back from Australia, and he just blew all his money. Like, I think he was a bit of a party animal, blew all his money, and he said, he was talking about me going over, and he goes, tell your boy this. He said, make sure you save your money. He goes, there's one thing going broke in your own country is like going broke in a foreign country, you say, is a different thing. And I think that's probably one of the hardest things to portray to barbers in their own countries is like just the financial skills that you get. But yeah, man, like think of this. I left home at 20. I didn't go home till I was 28. I spent 8 years away of like, and I think there were times where I thought, yeah, I could go home, and you know, visa issues and all that. But I think there was something in the back of my mind, knew I wasn't quite done yet with the new me, you know, with the person that I knew I was becoming and sort of wanted to become.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, hats off to you. I think it's one of the best things you can do early, and exposure to stuff early. Like you said, I love what you said. I guarantee you would think about it and feel about it differently, like in your 30s. Like, I'm 33, and the way I think about the world now and the things I like to think about, I'd experienced it in a completely different way. I was completely carefree at 20. Like, I had your mentality. I was like, well, if all goes tits up, I'll just get a flight home. You know, I had a credit card just in case. I was like, well, I've got the credit card just in case. Like, if I need to get that flight, I can get that flight. But life skills, man, so good.
Yeah, definitely. It's not the same sort of, if you say someone from the UK is going over to Australia, it's not the same if you're going over for 6 months on a working visa and you're like, oh, I've got a few thousand or £3,000. I just go over and have a good time, you know what I mean? It's not the same as what I've done, where it's like, obviously I've saved in case I've taken care of myself, so when I get here I don't get sick, or I've got a backup for a rainy day. It's not the same if you're going over and you'll be like, oh, I've got 6 months, I'm just going to spend all my money,
just blow it,
come back with nothing. It's different, you know what I mean?
Because what skills do you learn from that? Nothing really. You basically go from what you were doing here just doing it somewhere else.
It's just a longer, it's an extended holiday for most people. It's an extended.
It's a holiday. It is a holiday. Yeah, it's legit. Yeah.
It's different when you go over there and you're going for you've an objective. You know, I feel like you've come here with an objective. Hence why you're here in Glasgow doing the Barber Bash things. Like, it's not like you're putting your hand up and saying yes to all of the experiences. It's like, yeah, every event that we've been to, Amsterdam, you know, London, like all of these events, it's like Corey's there. He's there, experiencing it all.
Even just being here now.
Yeah.
Like when he asked me, do you want to be on the podcast? Like, I didn't really feel comfortable with it, but I'm like, why would I say no? Like, just do it. You know what I mean?
And what's the worst that can happen?
Exactly.
Like,
nothing,
and
really.
it's. I think if anything, it's you know, maybe 20% you might feel uncomfortable, 80% gain from this.
Yeah,
you know?
100%.
Like, bro, do you know what this does as well? Like, and this will just speak to your clients at home in Sydney. Like, I'm sure a lot of them will be listening to this podcast when you share it. Definitely. They'll be like, I want to see how Corey's getting on. What does that do? Keeps you in front of mind for them. So like when you go back, it's like they're still going to come and see you. Yeah, you know,
They're going to know about it. They're going to
just deepens the understanding and the relationship with you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting, man. I often think about my own experience as well with travel and being young and living overseas. And I went to Belgium when I was 17.
Yeah, living younger.
Yeah, so I was 17 and like I was doing a sport which was really hard, first of all, but there was a lot of it, like emotional. The emotional part of it was like super difficult.
Like the hardest part,
yeah, it was so emotional because it was a dream that I was pursuing in terms of like, and there's a window, you know. It's not like barbering where it's like I can just continue to add to the buckets and build my knowledge and skills. It's like, no, like there's a race to this line. Like if you don't get there before a certain time, you don't get there.
You never get there, no.
And like that, the life skills, putting myself in an uncomfortable situation like that, I had a cushy at home as well. I could have just stayed at home. Same with barbering. It's like I got to, it's in the first year in Ireland, doing loads of haircuts in my hometown. Could see my whole life play out in front of me if I wanted to.
Well, that's,
you know,
that's why I left. That's why I left Australia, because I was like in a position where I was like, wow, I could really just sit here for the next 30 years and I'd be happy. Like I loved cutting hair. Yeah. I still love cutting hair. But I was like, do I really want to stay here for the next 30 years without experiencing different countries and how people do things this side of the world? Like I made the decision and I was like, no, I don't want to stay here.
I love that you're running now and like you're doing that so seriously, because to have something like that in your life helps you get through like some of the hard things. Because there's going to be moments over here that are difficult and hard, and like you're going to have those experiences. Like when I was cycling, there was always difficult and hard moments, but it's like that's when most people quit, you know. That's when most people give up. And like Leigh was saying there about like not coming back for 8 years, it's like, okay, well, the scaffolding wasn't up long enough to make the change. We've been using that lately in our with AMP and with coaching. Like you were coaching with us for a year. Like the scaffolding was up for long enough for you then to like leave and be like good, you know.
Well, when I started coaching with you guys, I didn't have. It was like a pre-COVID thing. Like, I might go to London for a year after school and cut hair there and see how it is. And then when obviously all that stuff happened, I just forgot about it. And then coming back into coaching with you, I had no intention of going to London. I wanted to stay in Australia. I wanted to build that business. And then like halfway through the year, I was like, I don't know where it came from. It was sort of just like, maybe I should try overseas. Like I said, I wanted to do it a couple of years ago. Why don't I just, now's the best time. You know what I mean? So yeah, that thought sort of built over the year with the coaching. And obviously the goals that I set at the start of the year shifted dramatically towards the end of the year. You know what I mean?
Totally. And then it's like keeping the scaffolding up throughout that as well. At some point you would have been exposed to one of the conversations and just a light bulb would have went off. Been like, oh fuck, maybe that's what I need to do.
Yeah.
But it's not running away when things get hard. And I think that's like such an important skill for people, especially in business. You know, there's a saying that one of our coaches says, I can't remember who it is. I think it might be Kerwin even. But it's like business starts when the problems start. You know, business starts when the problems start. It's not when it's all fucking dandy and rainbows. Like this traveling experience for you, it's like it starts when it starts to get difficult, you know?
Yeah. You wanted to make it harder for yourself, basically. It's true, yeah.
It's just nice to know.
Yeah, but like even the feeling that I felt like in that 50k race, obviously there's like feelings that are obviously you're sore, right? But it's so emotionally draining as well, because you look at the time and you're running for 2 hours, you got another 3 hours left. You're like, how can I do that? And I finished it, done well, was happy with what I did. And then so like when I approach a situation in life that's like a bit difficult, I'm like, it's not really that hard.
I ran for 5 hours straight.
Yeah, like it's not that difficult. You know?
Yeah.
That's why when I transitioned from cycling into hair, like it's there's no surprise as to like why I'm doing what I'm doing in hair. This is so fucking easy. I said that to somebody at the Barber Bash in London, to Charlie Burt from Menswear. I was like, how easy is this? Like, really? You know, if you want to do something extra different with this, it's very easy.
Well, because it's not that physically threatening, is it? Like, you think about what we're doing with sports and running and training and bodybuilding, whatever you want to do, it's very physically challenging, and that is like related to pain. And pain, the brain thinks we could die here, but hair, it's all just psychological and ego threatening, and that's all an inside job, and we're probably not going to die. You'd probably be all right.
It's the window of tolerance, right? It comes back to that exposure therapy stuff again. It's like our window of tolerance becomes bigger, so nothing ever really becomes a problem. Running 10 minutes late on a haircut isn't the fucking issue. Like, it's just, yeah, it's less than ideal, but it's not something that threatens our survival.
Yeah, it doesn't even stress you out anymore once you've done things like that, because it's like I can make it up, you know.
Yeah.
It can be fixed. It's not a problem, really.
Yeah, I love it. I love this conversation. It's good to, like, this is some valuable stuff.
I think it's nice. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, what got me through those years of my career, like where you're at now, kind of like 22 to 28, there was a lot of turbulence in terms of like getting visas and, you know, relationships and all that kind of stuff. There was just turbulence, and I was like, what got me through it? And just hair in general, like how on earth did I get through that period? And it was because I had other things to focus on as well. I wasn't just doing hair.
Yeah.
You know, I was doing sports, and I was interested in money and learning all this other stuff. And yeah, I was doing like bodybuilding competitions. I was doing courses like not quite mentorship, but, you know, signing up to like Ty Lopez courses and going to some of the early Carmen Ray stuff like years ago before he's even big, you know, and all that kind of stuff, doing property seminars. And I wasn't just doing hair, and I had many things to focus on. I think it's really powerful for a lot of people as well to be multifaceted in that way, because it just stretches you and keeps your focus quite broad, which is great. But
yeah, definitely.
What have been, you know, some of the biggest lessons for you so far that were unexpected, like from coming over to this side of the world?
Even like, it's not even regarding hair or my career, it's just regarding life skills, really.
Yeah.
Like organising trips like this. Like back home, I'd never have to deal with that, really.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'd book one trip a year overseas, like for a holiday. Whereas when I come over to do a barber bash or something like that in Scotland, obviously I've never been to Scotland. I didn't even know I had to bring my passport yesterday. I'm like, I need my passport to go to Scotland. Like, there's things like that. It's just so small, but it's like, what do I need to do to get over there safely and to be in there for the right time and get the right train and get on the right flight at the right airport? Just tiny things like that you learn like by yourself. No one teaches you about it. You just learn by doing it. Just life skills. Like, you don't get that if you stay in home and you're comfortable. Your parents are taking care of everything. You don't get that at home.
It settles you down a lot in that regard. Like, a lot of people do have anxiety around travel, don't they? It's like, oh, is this booked? What time we got to be there? And like, on a night out, we're just like, whatever.
Well, I've learned that from you.
It was just fine. Like, in
the end, it works out.
It just works out.
Like, I didn't book my accommodation till like 2 days before I came here. You know what I mean? Because before I'd book it like a month in advance. Then I was like, oh, it'll work out. Like for Ireland, like, you're just like, oh, it'll work out. We'll stay here. Or, you know what I mean? It's little things like that sort of, they just don't stress you anymore.
It's the caught not thought mentality again, you know. And I'm glad that you're seeing that, because there's a relatability, or, you know, an association or an identifying with who we are. Like, so that's really important, because like when you go into any coaching or mentorship situation, I think it really benefits to like identify with the person who's delivering it. And it's like actually start like looking at how they're living and like taking bits that you like, and also, you know, you can learn a lot from what you don't like as well. But I think that's really important. Like when I was a pro cyclist, I would live my life, before I was a pro, I was living my life like a pro, and I was modeling the life of people that I wanted to be like. So it's like, I was making the decisions that they would make. It's like, would I eat the chocolate or would I drink the beer? What would a pro cyclist do in this situation? So,
and like I learned so much from you guys, just from not even doing what you say, but just watching what you do, and just sort of looking like, oh, how did they approach this? And I didn't even need to ask you. I'll just sort of look and see how you done it, and I'll be like, well, that's how they do it. So, and they've done similar to what I want to do, or they followed a similar path.
That's the sign of a great student as well. I feel that in myself, like someone cutting hair or something like that, I can just watch. And I feel there's like you go through a developmental stage of becoming a great student, and I can just watch and pick things up and be like, oh yeah, I get it. And like, but just by osmosis and just watching what they're doing. I think that's key, really key. And I think surrounding yourself and what's the word? Like just throwing yourself all in, like complete immersion. Like Tony Robbins talks about, like complete immersion, completely immersing yourself in that world. It accelerates you as a human and as a student of life. You can then just watch and be like, yep, take a little bit of that, take a little bit of that.
Yeah, even if there's things like in the mentorship or in the program that you guys will be talking about something with another student, and like it has nothing to do with me at this moment, but I'll just identify with it and be like, in 12 months this might come up for me, or I might be in a similar situation in 12 months. So I'm gonna take notes now of it, and then in 12 months when it happens, if it happens, might never happen, but if this situation happens to me, I'll sort of be like, what were they talking about that time? It's like that chocolate bar that
it's the great analogy. I heard something similar to this on a podcast, and it was the guy doing it. He's a bit of like a spiritual kind of leader dude, and he was like the counsel to Martin Luther King's family. And all of his kind of kids and all that kind of thing. And anyway, he had this lady on who was an actor from Hollywood. She was a well-known actor, been acting for like 40 years or something, and got a book called Inner Fitness, I'm pretty sure it's called, and he's helped her a lot. And he was like, I've known you for a long time, and he said, out of everybody I know, you're one of the people that have advanced the most. And he said, what was the secret? And she said, unlike most people, she was like, I took every word you said seriously. And I like that. I think I can see that in you a little bit. It's like you take the word seriously. Like you say, maybe you're not going to use it now, but like there's an association with the words, and it's like, I'm just going to take this seriously, not go, well, that doesn't apply to me now, so I'm just not going to listen. I'm just going to play on my phone. You know, it's like, just take the word seriously. There's a lesson in every word, every sentence, every question, no matter if it's directed at you, someone else. You know, and in a weird way, it adds to your healing, it adds to your strength in life, it just adds to everything. It keeps building, and that's really powerful. And I think that's what makes people a great learner and a great student of life. It's like associating with every word and actually taking the words seriously.
Well, that's the worst thing you can do. Why would you not pay attention, or why would you not take it seriously? Like, especially if you're paying to be in that environment, or you're investing even just investing your time to be there, why would you distract yourself with something else? Why wouldn't you just pay full attention to what's going on in that moment? Even if it has nothing to do with you, like, it's obviously going to benefit you, otherwise you wouldn't be in that situation.
Well, Ty Lopez says this. He was like, you know, be careful how you select your mentors. He was like, but once you get a mentor, do everything they say to the word. Like in your early years, he was like, until you develop your own kind of systems within yourself, he was like, do everything they say.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of where you get them, right? Like, and you, again, you can put it through your own filter. It doesn't mean it's all going to work out, and take that with a pinch of salt, obviously. But yeah, like that's, I think there's magic in that.
Yeah, even before, like, I saw that, like, mentorship from you guys, I had mentors before, and like at that time in my life, I didn't really know anything. Like, I didn't know what way to go or how to follow or which way to take my career or my life. And I just, if I signed up and I trusted in someone, I just do everything they say. And I look back at it now and be like, oh, that's not really me at the moment. But 2 years ago, I didn't know what was me. So the only way I found out that is to follow what they say and be like, just try it, you know what I mean? And try it for 6 months, try it for a year, commit to it fully, listen to exactly what they say, do it. And then if you find out that in a year it's not you, change it, take a different approach.
And that sometimes is the lesson.
Yeah.
So like I've signed up to mentorship stuff before as well, and I didn't quite get what I thought I was going to get, but I got what I needed.
Exactly.
You know, so, but it's like, even if it's an outcome that wasn't the desired outcome, it's like that was the outcome that I needed at that time.
It's got a link back to sport for me as well. Like I used to play hockey growing up, right? And you played cricket before, you guys? So when you, or any like sports like that, when you pick it up naturally, most right-handers will put their left hand at the top. So if you play cricket, most people will put their left hand up top. Same with golf, they'll put their left hand at the top. Same with hockey, most people put their left hand at the top. But the pros put their right hand at the top. So somewhere in their youth, they would switch, because if their right hand's their strongest hand, they want all the control at the top of the stick, not in the middle of it. So in the pros, like say Barcelona's got the best club team in the world, right? When they're like this big, they teach them to switch their hand over. They put their right hand at the top. I had to do it when I was about 12 years old, so I'd already been playing for about 3 years. So I got used to this way. But I looked at the best people, and the best people all had their right hand at the top. And it was so interesting, just as an observation, there was like 50% of the kids of my age did it, and 50% of them didn't. And it was just so interesting, and all of us that did it ended up being better. And I don't know if it was necessarily because we switched the hand. I think it was what was going on in here. We were like you. We were like, you know what? Well, if that's what they're doing, I'm going to do everything they say. And I think it was maybe that mentality that took us further, rather than being like, nah, that's too hard, I don't want to do it, I'm just going to do it my way.
What's comfortable, I'm just going to do
it's comfortable. Exactly. Yeah. And you fall back into
what I'm used to, you know, it's like I'm used to this, so I'll just do it that way.
But even like with cutting hair, like when I first met you, there was, you know, I would see the way Owen would fade, and I'd be like, oh, that's really different to how I do it. But, you know, even where he would hold the clipper, you know what though? I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
I clearly, what I'm doing is clearly not getting me the results. So I'm going to do that. I don't care if it's like, yeah, but on YouTube I saw the 10,000 step fade. Like, who cares? I'm like, here's a person in real life, boots on the streets, that's doing it. It's really different to what I do, but screw it. I'm going to full immersion. I'm going to do every single thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And it's still shit. So
especially yeah. I think in the gathering like stages of knowledge, you know, when you're just sponging things and you're just gathering as much as you possibly can, there's like an adapt philosophy that comes with it. It's like, first, before we can start adapting things and changing things and tweaking our own ways of going about things, first we need to adopt the philosophy of someone else who's proven to have got those results. It's like, I think where most people kind of go wrong these days is they try to adapt before they adopt. It's like, I'm just going to adapt things and change things and do things, but they don't really have all of the skills yet. They haven't squeezed the fucking juice out of the adapt phase yet before they can adapt.
It's like content, right? Like you would have seen it in coaching. Everyone's looking for the strategy before they've adopted that content as part of their business model. Right. So it's like, how about you just adopt the fact that you're going to have to post every day? How about just do that first before you worry about what's going to be the magic? It's like, no, because Hermosi talks about it all the time. It's like, don't think you should be really worrying about that right now. Worry about, can you post every day? Because you can have all the strategy, but if you're not posting, it's like you're going to have to get used to that after you learn strategy.
Yeah, just start first, because if you're trying to look for the strategy, you will never start, you know what I mean? You're always trying to find the right strategy.
It's like I want to do a marathon, but spending all your time worrying about what shoes you're going to wear. It's like, don't worry about it. Like, yeah, just go out the door now. Like, put your Vans on if you have to. Just go for it. Like, you know. Yeah.
I think that sport kind of crossover between business and life in general and sport. You learn so much about life through sport. I think basically anybody who doesn't have like something like that to kind of work with their business is missing out, in my opinion. Yeah. Especially like, even if it's just going to the gym. Yeah. Like, some form of like energy exertion or discipline, like it's so big.
Yeah. And something else to put your focus onto as well.
Yeah.
Like just to get you through just even tough times. Like for me, yeah, that age from like around 22 to like 28, that was like, I was bodybuilding then. And it was in the gym every day. And I had a plan to follow and a structure and something to focus on it.
Even if it's just an hour in the gym,
It was,
where you're not thinking about your career,
but it
or
was so
what you're going to do
consistent.
tomorrow. Just, yeah, stick to, it's the consistency as well, you know what I mean? Following that.
Something wasn't going quite right in the salon, at least I had the other thing to focus on. And if one day I woke up and the scale was a bit over, and and the salon was going right, at least I could bounce between the two and had good focuses in life. And they were both challenging in their own ways. Hair was challenging in its own sense, and the other one was challenging in its physical sense, which was brilliant. Such a great combo. I think we need to challenge the mind and the body simultaneously. And yeah, I guess it's pretty much a recipe for success, really.
So Corey, at the tender age of 22, you've done quite a lot for someone who's 22. You've seen even more money than I've ever fucking seen when I was 22, like nor even close. What would you say to all of the people your own age and younger now who are getting into barbering, as to like what some of the more important things that they can focus on to like squeeze the most juice out of their career? Not just from a monetary standpoint, but like just an overall like holistic approach. Because we're seeing such big changes in the industry these days. Like we're going to probably get our eyes opened to some of it today. Yeah. But like any young kids coming through who might be like wondering what's the best path for me to take, what would be your kind of best advice for them?
Yeah. I'd just say like, just really get good at it. Like if you know that's what you want to do and you want to take it far, like if you want to stay in barbering for a while and you want to build your own path and build your own brand, just get good at it. Like learn it properly, learn from people who you look up to, learn from people who are doing it better than you, or who are like industry leaders. Like follow what they do and watch what they do and copy them, really. Steal what they do. And because you're so early in your career, like it's not about finding your own way to fade or your own way to cut the top. It's about, you don't know how to do anything. So just do what the people who are doing it good, do what they say, follow what they say. And once you get to the stage of like, I think I actually understand this stuff now, like then you can start to be like, well, what works for me? Maybe I should take a little bit of what he's saying, a little bit of what he's saying. Maybe I can mix it together and sort of find my own way to do it, my own sort of, you know what I mean? But when you're early in your career, it's just about getting good at it, really. Focus on getting good at it, and then that's like build that up from the ground. Don't worry about how much am I going to charge now, or when can I put my prices up? Like build it really strong, build your foundation strong, because if you go up too fast or you try to, I don't know, go out on your own and build your own business, open your own shop before you've even got those foundations, it's not going to last. It might work for a year or for 2 years or for 5 years, but it's not going to work long term.
And where's the ceiling? Like that's what I see nowadays, the obsession with price point, for example. Yeah, like from time to time we might put something out and be like, we'll help you get to $100 a haircut. Yeah, but it's not all about getting there. And plus, like you said, is it going to last? Or is it just going to be fast? Like that's the way I look at it. And it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in the next 5 to 10 years with everybody who's currently doing what they're doing. It's like, where are they going to be? Like there's a lack of patience, but there's also a lack of forward thinking, like ripple effect, downstream thinking like, well, number one, do I even want to be cutting hair? Like if you haven't asked yourself this question, if anyone's listening to this, you haven't asked yourself this question, do I still want to be cutting hair when I'm in my 40s? Like, do you still want to be the person in your 40s doing the same thing that you're doing right now? Me personally, definitely not. Like, but that's not some people might want to, and that's okay too, but it's just asking yourself the question, getting curious, because there seems to be this rush at the moment, like especially from young people like your age. And what I've always admired about you, even in the coaching space, was we could have very easily started to push towards $100 a haircut, but you were more concerned about like squeezing the juice out of the skills and the knowledge, and like you weren't so focused on, okay, let me just get the most out of, like, from the money, like from a money standpoint, it's like I want to get the most out of everything. Like I also need time to like learn, and like you've always scheduled time to learn and listen to podcasts, read books. Like the money thing, the money side of barbering at the moment is going nuts. It's almost like people are doing it from a very opportunistic lens. Now, I haven't thought about it like this before, but this is an interesting thought experiment. It's almost as if they're like saying, I better get the most out of this while it lasts, in a subconscious way. It's like, because they know their shit. Like deep down they know, oh, I don't know if like this is just a fluke or not, so I'm just going to get the most out of it while I can.
Yeah. Well, it's like I always say about things, they reveal the collective story. It reveals the condition of people. You know, right now, if we were all kind of locked in and confident and patient, and we trusted that what we were doing was going to will show the yield anyway, this probably wouldn't be happening. But it is happening. And I think it's just revealing the collective condition about what we think about money, what we think about the things that we do.
You've got something to learn at each stage. Like you have to go through the stages, and obviously you don't have to make the mistakes because you can learn from people that have made the mistakes before you. But you still have to go through the stage. You still have to charge $50 before you can charge $100. Like it's
how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with any stage. And again, like if we get fixated on the number, it's not about the number. Yeah. It's about your profit line, your margins, then what are you doing with your profit line? Are you investing? Are you making that money work for you? There's all that side of it that no one is talking about. They're just talking about collecting cash, which is fine. But if you're spending all that cash, what's the point?
Yeah.
Like, I don't really care. You know, it's like, it doesn't impress me whatsoever. And I would love to see that come into it a lot more. Because, yeah, if these kids are collecting, you know, decent money early and they're investing it, well, guess what? They're going to be retired by the time they're 40. They will be, you know. And I would love to see that spoken about a bit more. But, like, it's like, what? You're going to do $100 haircuts till your fucking retirement age? Like, no, you're not. What, with all this hypey content? Like, I think what it's going to do as well is going to keep people trapped in, like, their kid mentality. Like, right now we're seeing very, like, childlike content, you know. It's very entertainment, like that. Look at this fringe, you want this haircut, bro, like this effect. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, cool, but like you can do that at 40, 50. Like, where's our great role models going to be for men growing up? Like, you know, there's stages and there's levels to it, and like, I'm all for everybody squeezing as much juice as they can out of like the season that they're in. But I love what you said, because I've asked that question to a few people lately, people that I've used to work with, people that have been in business for many, many years, multiple decades, and they say the same thing: get good or don't bother. You know, that I think that's a great piece of advice right now, is like, get fucking good or don't bother, because it's saturated right now with like mediocrity, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about that, because no one in the industry talks about it. Like, I believe that if you're a barber, you can retire on the money you make from barbering. If you're doing like making a good business and you're running a good business, you can retire cutting hair
early,
invest into different things. You don't need it, really early.
Now you get it, right? Yeah. I've been saying it for years. There's enough money in barbering. You just have to know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And like, think of relying on haircuts as it is right now, because everything changes. I think it's a dicey move. It's a dicey move. We've got to be getting that money to work for us. Like, not going out and buying the Stony and the shoes and this and that. Yeah, it's nice to have nice things, of course, but like, don't make that the purpose of why you make money, you know? Get property early, get some investments early. Like, you know, it's the rules of investing. You know, the earlier you start, it's nuts when you look at compound interest. If you start when you're 20 versus when you start when you're 30, it's astronomical. I think it's like tens of millions different. Like, you know, it's even that 10-year period. Like, guys, start early, as early as you can.
And when you expose yourself to stuff like that, reading about how starting in your 20s and starting in your 30s, the difference, you can never unsee that again. Like,
can't unsee that.
Oh my God, I'm 20, like, why don't I just start now? Instead of waiting till when I'm 30 and I'm making this much, why don't I put away what I can now and put it into a different account and invest with that money? Start right now, even if it's small. That money you're starting with now in 20 years is going to be worth a lot. Like, it's...
And that's why I love it. The societal conditioning, the story will tell you that you have to go out at the weekend and you have to party and you have to enjoy yourself while you're young. And it's like, think about the people who are giving you that advice. Yeah. Look at their fucking lives.
Yeah. Always question the source. Yeah. Question the source. And like,
no thanks.
My mentality has always been like, all right, you guys can do that. And look, we've all had our fair share of partying, but like, that's never been my sole purpose of why I make money. But like, there'll be a day where I can do as much of that as I want to, you know? Yeah. There will be a day, like, you know, you put your head down for long enough, it's like, oh, I don't have to push that hard for this anymore. You know?
Yeah, it's interesting to look at the people who are saying that and telling you, oh, you got to go out and enjoy your 20s. Like, yeah, enjoy it, but like, you can also enjoy it while you're working and while you're making money and while you're investing and learning.
But why is that
Depends
stuff,
what you enjoy.
why is that stuff not enjoyable?
That's what I'm saying.
You know, like, why is that?
Yeah, who said when was that not enjoyable? Like, setting yourself up for a great future and a healthy life and a prosperous life. Like, that sounds enjoyable as hell to me. You know? Like,
Yeah.
It's funny, isn't it?
Amazing.
When has that become not enjoyable?
Yeah.
Most people don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Like, I'm just going to put that out there as well.
Yeah.
So, like, it's literally a conditioning thing. Like, that's not them saying that. That's just what they've heard somebody else say. It's not like if you were to stop for a minute and really, really deep it, like, oh, you gotta enjoy this and enjoy it. It's like, you do realise what you're saying, though. You know, like, why is it not enjoyable to do it the opposite? Like, I want to have an enjoyable entire life, not just my 20s, you know. And plus, when I really reflect now into my early 20s, was all of that stuff, was all the partying, was all the drinking, was all the drugs, was all the women, was all that, was it, there was fun times, don't get me wrong, but overall, was it more enjoyable than what I'm doing now? Probably not.
Yeah.
Definitely not. You know, it wasn't. So yeah, I don't agree with that.
Yeah, like, even you gotta think about it. Even if you're in that stage and you're enjoying partying, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you also got to think, in 5 years, am I still going to enjoy this? Or I can enjoy it now, but then what if I just put a little bit aside for in 10 years or in 20 years where the things I enjoy are going to change? So, like, what's the best to enjoy your whole life, not just the first few years of your 20s?
I love this conversation because it does go so deep, but I think we have to question the collective source as well. It's a very Western mentality. You know, we got to think about where these people grew up in Western societies, where, because why would say, oh, enjoy your 20s now? What does that mean? It's just shit from here on out. Like, we've got to remember where that comes from. It's conditioning from people that have maybe not enjoyed their lives and gone, oh, you better make most of it now. It's like, why can't I just enjoy it all the way? And I've said it on a podcast before, I actually don't think a lot of people know what their joy is. You know, when I say follow your joy, I don't think a lot of people know what brings them joy.
Well, it's hard to find that.
Yeah.
It's difficult. It's not like it's gonna...
No.
Some people, maybe you wake up and you sort of know like what you want to do, but it's so many people, especially around my age, they're just like, I don't know what I like, I don't know what I want to do.
No role models, like, that's the thing. It's like, there's no role models for them. People, like, they haven't found role models yet. It's not that there is none, they just haven't found them yet.
Yeah. It's very hard. They're very hard to find in the Western world. Like, I say that a lot, especially women and men. Where's our role models? Like, who do we really look up to? Like, you know,
very few people.
Eastern philosophy is different. You've got ancients that have been practicing this shit for fucking a long time, and now we've got grown-ass men acting like 13-year-old boys. Like, that's what we're looking up to. You know, same with girls. Like, I feel so sorry for the young women coming through, like, looking at their role models. You got a bunch of, like, middle-aged women trying to be fucking 18-year-olds. You know, covering their greys, getting their lips done, getting their tits done, getting the fat sucked out of them, putting it in their ass. Like, Jesus Christ, man. Is that a good role model? Like, change everything about yourself because the way you are isn't good enough. Young girls are looking like that and thinking, that's where I'm going. But it keeps them at a young mental age.
Yeah, it's kind of scary. Like,
that's not enjoy, because that is the exact model of enjoy it now because it's shit later on. That is that exact model. That's where it comes from. Like, same with guys. Like, it's dude, there's no gratitude anymore for life. Like, why can't you enjoy every season, every decade? Just enjoy it.
And sometimes you forget about that. Like, if you're in rooms like this, when you walk outside, like, there's nobody else talking about it.
It's terrifying.
It's like so rare to find, and that's like the thing. That's where social media can help actually nowadays. Like, it's even on social media, there's millions and billions of people, but there's only like a couple of people that you can look at and be like, do I want my life to be like theirs in 10 years or 20 years? Like, is that something that I like now?
And then what we have to deal with is that most people lie on social media. as to like what's actually going on in their life and in their world.
There's so much dysmorphia going on.
It's crazy.
Like, and dissonance as well. Like,
it was funny when we arrived yesterday and we met you. It's like, so what do you think of Glasgow? And just like, well, just any other city. And I was like, yeah, people are just doing the same shit here, aren't they? He goes, when we were in Amsterdam, when we were here, London, Manchester, Dublin, Cork, all of the cities that we've been in since we've been here, all of the same stuff going on. You go out onto the street, it's the exact same everywhere. There's the same behaviours, same condition. Like,
everyone's focused on making money to spend money. The world's built, cities are built around people spending money. That's just what it is.
Yeah, that's the first thing I thought when I got here. I'm like, I need to go on a holiday where people are just more appreciative of what they have. Like, I need to get out of the city. I need to go somewhere where it's just like a little town on the coast of Portugal or something, where it's just like people actually like appreciate what they've got, and people are so like, they don't know anything more than, they don't even know a big city. This is their big city. This tiny little town in one shop, and they cook at home every night, and they do their daily tasks. They don't work big jobs to go to buy a big house. Like, they're so...
I feel sorry for people though that have never experienced anything different to what we're seeing on the streets. Yeah. Because this is the thing, like, the environments do exist, it's just a matter of finding them. Like when I found K2, for example, or when you find these other environments, or what we're trying to create with AMP, it's like, okay, at least you can plug into that a couple of times a week and get, you know, a conversation that's stimulating, or, you know, you can feel that, okay, there's some people that relate to me, or I'm not alone thinking this, because it's very easy to just fall to the standards of like the environment or the herd, or what the people are in general doing and saying, because ultimately we're primal at our core. Like, we're going to just fall into the standards of the environment over time. But it's
scary to think that like people, their whole lives will go their whole life and they won't talk about this once.
Yeah.
Like, they will die never talking about it, or they'll die never thinking about it, because they've never been exposed to it.
And there'll be people out there that say this isn't worth talking about. Oh, Corey, that's too deep. Well, it's not that deep. But okay, but the question always becomes, is your life giving you the results that you would like? Because I tell you what, 90% of people you meet here are miserable as all hell. They're complaining about everything. I rarely meet someone who's like, I've got a cracking life. Like, I'm doing it. I rarely meet that person. It's like, okay, well, your life isn't producing the results that you want then. So why am I going to listen to you? I'm going to keep talking about the stuff that I've been dealing with this for years, by the way, and you might get this. I'm just warning you now, like, as you get older, you're probably going to come up against this. Like, I remember 2018, I came back and, like, you know, I was doing breath work and I was doing all this stuff, and people were just laughing, like, oh yeah, all this stuff. And I'm like, look, the life that you have doesn't look great, to be honest. Like, everyone's complaining, either overweight, sick, complaining, whatever. I'm like, my life doesn't look like that, you know, probably because of the efforts that I've put into the things that I'm doing. So I'm going to keep doing these things. And as the years have gone on, they're like, oh, okay, oh, I get it now. So you're probably going to have to deal with that, because there are a lot of people that would just say, oh, why would I be that deep? Or whatever, it's not worth talking.
The barbershop's a breeding ground for that.
It's a breeding ground for that. But
we're exposed to it's the biggest personal development journey ever.
Yeah.
You're exposed to so many different opinions.
Yeah.
I actually don't think that many barbers have a really solid understanding of themselves, because they're exposed to so many other people's opinions.
You're smacked around in a pinball machine.
Yeah.
For like,
it's like, oh, am I doing right? And then people come in and give them advice about what to do with their lives, their business, and they're getting so many different opinions.
Yeah.
Because they haven't gone deep enough on the personal journey yet. And that's okay too, but fuck, man. I can imagine you're even getting it now with like the running stuff. It's like, that will be misunderstood to a point. It's like, oh, why would you do that? Or, you know,
you don't go out on the piss, or you don't do this, don't do that. Like,
100%, yeah.
I was saying to Owen coming up here, I don't know how it came about, but have you heard of that monk called Thich Nhat Hanh? Have you heard of that guy?
No.
So he was one of like this great Zen master, right? And he passed away a few years ago. I think he got to like his 90s, but he was like a Zen master, Buddhist monk. And I remember some of the days in the company that we used to work with, and you know, it was so intense sometimes, of like being pulled around different directions and different people's opinions, and the energy, the music, and the this. So I'd go in the morning, I would have done my breath work, my meditation, listen to Thich Nhat Hanh on the way in, talking about these Buddhist like philosophies, going to do some work, go out at lunchtime, do the same thing, go to the grass, sit in the grass, do some breath work, listen to this again, just to keep myself regulated, it was so polarizing because, you know, in I'd be listening to philosophies on like aimlessness and detachment and all these things, and then I go back into the barbershop and there were people completely attached and addicted and, you know, like driven by their wants and needs in life. And yeah, it's a big personal development journey, but it's a great, if you're really aware, if you can really like bird's eye view it, it's a great place to find your own self. Find yourself. Staying so centered. If you can stay centered in that world, I think you're laughing. Yeah. If you can be like, no, I'm going to ignore the noise. And I've been very close to like been pulling out of it at times. Very close.
Even if you're trying to like, because 45 minutes is not enough to talk to someone about that. Like you can't change that. You can't open their mind in 45 minutes. Like it's not going to, it's like obviously you gotta have a good conversation. You gotta give them a good service. But even if what they're coming in with their energy is so negative, you can't really change anything in 5 minutes. That's so hard.
Yeah. That's why like all this stuff about barbers becoming, you know, all the therapy and all this stuff. It's like, guys, you better be good at it then. You better be really good at it. 'Cause if you think you're going to do that in 45 minutes. But I think that doesn't mean to say we can't adjust the ways that the utility that we give hair. I think if we start to switch the utility we give hair, naturally that will start people on this upward spiral to like positivity and empowerment. But for me, what I noticed was it was just a long-term thing, like seeing the same person over like 6 years. And eventually, one day they would just come in and be like, I can't believe how different I see myself since being with you in this room. And I'm like, yeah, it's been a while, but like...
Well, that must be so rewarding to feel that.
It's great.
After
like,
that long.
I guarantee you now, we went through my old client list and we called them all up. Like, I bet 80% of them would say, I don't see myself the way that I used to. And like, this is what me and Leigh talk about. And like, yeah. But obviously that's rare, but that also requires a centeredness. You have to be able to come back to yourself and believe that what you're doing is for the betterment of humans. Yeah. Like, else it's too easy to get pulled back into the piss pool with everybody else, you know. But that's what the world. I don't even think it's barbering anymore. I think it's the world. Like, you imagine being in a corporate situation or anywhere. I think it's a great time to just practice being so centered.
Yeah.
And sticking to yourself. And, you know, props to you for doing that. Like, I'd say just keep on that road.
Like, definitely, yeah.
I think the universe is putting us there on purpose. You know, it's all perfect timing. It's all perfect timing.
Always.
I had to realise that once as well. I was like, this is all just perfect for me right now, you know?
The beauty of the world these days is like social media gives us a platform to do so much good with it, and people don't all see it that way. It's a fantastic platform to be able to do good. So for example, there was probably a moment in time where you might be trying to have these deep conversations with people in 45 minutes, but then the 45 minutes is up and then they might not see you for 2 or 3 weeks. But what happens in that 2 or 3 weeks is they go back to the environment that created the negativity in the first place. So there's no way of like solidifying it. Whereas now they can follow you on Instagram, and then if you post every day and you're posting similar types of things, like some of the stuff we post, I'm sure would get people thinking, oh, maybe there's a different way to look at the world. Like, they have the exposures to it now on multiple different levels, if that's how you choose to use the platform.
And it's one of the reasons why I love the consultation system that we use. It actually avoids a lot of like the shit that you don't want to talk about. Like, it starts on a high level, starts empowering, and what I found is like I could get that out of the way quick, so then we could spend 40 minutes talking about the things that you want to talk about, and that was so powerful. And my clients just assumed that in the end they jump in the chair, and so those who wouldn't even talk about the hair, I'd just start cutting the hair, and we're like, dude would be like, right, I'm going out to the pub tonight, right, and there's a lot of lads there, I don't want to drink, but I know they're going to give me a hard time about drink. I remember this guy, and I'm like, oh, so should we go there? And it's like, yeah, and then we'd start to talk about leadership, and imagine you're the person that they've never seen someone be able to handle that scenario before, and then they go, how did you do that night? You know, we were all drinking at Harvard and you weren't. And I said, and it's like, we would just go there. You know, that's just what I can remember from recent times. And it's like, that changes their world. And they get up out of the chair and be like, this is fucking brilliant. Like, thank you. You know?
And I don't even look at their haircut.
Dude, that's what we say. Like, Owen says it, the hair's just happening. Yeah, the hair just happens.
And that just goes back to what I said in the beginning. Like, you got to get really good at the hair first before you can do that.
Makes everything easier.
Because if you're thinking about how you're going to graduate that, you can't have that conversation.
Everything is easier.
Yeah.
If you just get good, get really good.
Come about ourselves. It becomes about making sure that we're just looking at, like, because we don't even know that enough, so we can't get anywhere past that. It's just we're stuck. It's a part of the hero's journey where people are just blocked, like roadblock in the journey to the destination. It's just a roadblock.
Yeah, when you become so good at the hair, they don't have to think about it. That's when you can really enjoy the barbershop, and you can, you know what I mean? It's
focus on something that really it's enjoyable to focus on. Yeah.
But then, you know, the beauty of it, and you'll notice this in your life then as well as you approach our age, you know, many years to come. But like, it goes from leadership in those moments to leadership everywhere. Yeah. Because how you show up in one area of your life is how you show up everywhere. And then it's like, okay, if we can't even lead ourselves, like for example, you're leading yourself to do these 50k runs, you're doing the training that's required for it, you're eating accordingly. It's like, in all of the little decisions, it almost comes back to like that athletic mindset or the pro athlete mindset. It's like, okay, well, I need to lead myself in all situations. Like even the other day, right? Like I was out with my little brother, and you know, this guy called Tony. He might, I doubt he'll watch this, but anyway, Tony must be what, in his 50s? Would he be late 50s? And we were just having a few drinks and whatnot after the Ireland match. Now, when I say a few drinks, I was drinking sparkling water, you know, and they were having a few beers. And he just looked across at me at one stage and he's like, how do you do this sober? And it's, you know, then you start implanting things into their mind. So the next morning we were having a conversation, he's asking me a few more questions. I started telling him about our business and what we're doing and this and that. And it's like, all of the pieces of the puzzle start coming together. So like, for example, we as barbers, we could be the person that starts somebody on their journey to like a different way of living, different way of life. It's like, well, maybe I should think about, like, that might be the first thought. It's just the first thought of maybe I should stop drinking. You know, why do I drink? It's like, it gets you questioning.
But that could come so much, like that could come 5 years down the line. It could take so long to sort of get, like, obviously they started thinking about it then, but that could happen 5 years later. But that started with that day.
You planted the seed. Yeah. They'd be like, how did Corey do that? You know, maybe even it's the running. Someone you work with, maybe. How was he running 50Ks and working in a barbershop? I'm going to research that one. You know, that completely might have to shift their value set.
Yeah, even like the conversation we were having last night, like when I was talking to the boys from work, like one of them started reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Brilliant. Great.
And I was just like, I didn't even, like, I mentioned it, but I didn't be like, and then he's just like, oh, I'll just have a look at that. And that'll just change, like, how he looks at everything.
That book could change your life.
Exactly.
It would, wouldn't it? Yeah. Would you say that book changed your life? Because we say it all the time, but I think people probably might be a bit sick of hearing us say it, but it's nice to hear from someone else. It's a life-changing book.
I read that book when I was maybe in my last year of school, so like 17.
Yeah, wow.
And then I came back to it when I was 21 and read it again.
What a year to read it. Wow.
And like at 17, you don't really understand it. But it's like, what, I can start thinking about that stuff like that now.
There's relatability, because now you're in business. You know?
And I think back and I'll be like, where did I learn about that? So I read that when I was 18 or 17.
Why do I think about that like that?
Yeah.
And the scariest thing is, Corey, like, this is for some people, this will be the first time they've ever heard it. This isn't new knowledge. When was that book written? Like 90s? It's new. It's not new knowledge. Like, and Robert Kiyosaki is an old dude. Like, he's been around a long time. And this is stuff he's talking about he learned when he was your age. Yeah. You know, so like, how old is he?
Really change. Things don't change.
Is he 70? Yeah, is he late 60s, 70? Like, he's an older dude. Like,
the fundamentals, that foundational piece, doesn't change that much.
That knowledge is 50 years old. It's not new stuff, guys. Like,
and the person who taught him that would learn the same thing from someone else.
He learned that 30, 40 years before that.
It's probably like over 100 years ago, and it's the same foundation.
And we said on another podcast that we did back along, and it might be released before this one, probably will be, but a lot of people don't realise the system that they're in. The system hasn't changed for many, 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 many years since the Rockefellers designed it. Like, it hasn't changed that much. The tax system, the interest system, the debt system, it's all there. It was built for a reason. It hasn't changed that much.
Even though the book's based in, it's like obviously set in the US, it's the same thing.
Dude, it's
a lot of it's the mindset.
Yeah.
A lot of it's just how you think about things.
When the US is the global reserve bank of the world, what does that say? Of the world. Finance works very similarly around the globe. Every country's got to have their slight nuances, but finance generally works similarly around the world. The world is built on debt. And I don't care what anybody says. The world's built on debt. Debt accrues interest. The only way you can pay for the interest is through inflation. That is why the system is a maximizer by design. It will never stop growing. That's why put your fucking prices up. Don't worry about that's expensive. Well, guess what? It's going to be expensive again next year, and then 5 years' time, and the whole system expands.
Yeah.
And they're never going to let everything fall to the ground. The system just isn't designed like that. They will never let it fall to the ground.
Yeah, if you're staying in the same place, you're basically going down.
Exactly. You're falling behind.
Everything's going up around you.
Yeah, if you're not growing, you're dying. That's where like if your business isn't growing, it's dying. If your life, like if we're not growing, we're dying. Like think about that. Like we're all on the way to the same place. We're all either growing or dying. Like so, when we're looking after our core tenets, like our health, our fitness, our diet, like that's to me growth.
Yeah.
Like I feel, even though I'm getting older, I'm feeling like more vitality now because I'm gone back to like living like a professional in all aspects. It's like, all right, well, if I want to get professional results, I got to do professional things. What would a professional do? You know, it's like, okay.
The body's a great example of that, like atrophy. Like if you don't use it, the body just thinks, oh, okay, turn that off then.
Well, it's true. Right? Yeah. Like most old people die when they fall over.
Yeah.
It's like imagine getting to the point where you fall over and like that risks your life. Yeah. Like it's crazy. Like, but that can be avoided.
Yeah.
Like, but they just didn't have the knowledge to think that it could be avoided back then. Whereas now it's like there's actually nearly no excuse. We're avoiding it. It's everywhere. You open your phone, all of the information is there, right in the palm of our hands to like live a better life. All you got to do is Google, how can I live a better life? Start there. Like that's a great place to start. Yeah. And it will tell you.
You get so much from it, yeah.
Yeah, that will kickstart the journey. But what else are we choosing? To look at fucking Kim Kardashian or to look at these people and like they're the role models of the world. It's like, no, I don't think they are. In many regards, they're not. But it can be quite a scary journey, like to get real with yourself. I think another thing I really admire about you, Corey, at your age is your ability to just be like, and it reminds me of me when I was young too, your ability to just like eat shit if you have to, you know? Yeah. It's like, well, just gotta look at myself in the mirror and think, okay, well, some stuff here that needs shifting and work. And then getting to work on it, not just fucking getting stuck by it.
Yeah. I feel like the UK is only going to deepen that for you as well. You know, that this backup against the war scenario, like, you'll just deepen it. Yeah. You know, because for me anyway, it just really helped me to realise what's important and what's not. It's like, you know what, let that go. You know, I need to focus on this right now. Yeah, it'll deepen it even further. It's really cool.
Yeah, even coming here, like knowing no one, it's changed. Like I don't have to, when I come here I didn't know anyone. I don't have to go and spend time with this person on the weekend because I've known them for 10 years. I can really, really select the people I spend my time with and the time that I spend on things. I don't have to go out on the weekend for drinks because I don't know anyone here that goes out on the weekend for drinks. You know what I mean?
You don't feel obliged. No. Living life out of obligation is an awful thing, isn't it? Like I'm struggling with that now at the moment, going back to Fermoy. Yeah. It's like, fuck. Who do I really want to spend my time with?
It's interesting because like the way that once upon a time being segregated from the group would have been threatening, right? Like tribal times. And this is why I think it's so scary for people like your age, even our age, to come to that door of realisation, because it can be quite a lonely road. Like if you're the one staying centred and everyone around you, there's noise, drinkers, there's clothes, fashion, blah, blah, blah. Like you can be like, this feels quite lonely. But once upon a time, I think that's old mechanism still in it. Once upon a time, that would have meant you might die. Because if you're cut from the tribe, see you later. But now, what have we all done? We removed ourselves at our own choice. We segregated ourselves, but you know what? I'm going to go put myself here. And now in this modern world, what it does is it allows us to bring choice back again. Yeah. We can really choose. And I think that's the magic of it. And that's why I think it's going to deepen you even further. Because you realise, oh, it's not threatening. It's actually not what the system thinks it is. No. Because of how, comfortable our Western world is. Actually removing yourself by choice is such a strengthener. Because you can put the pieces back in again.
Well, Mosey says it so good, like when he says, when you're growing and you're trying to better yourself, you'll get to a stage where you can't fit in with the people that you grew up with or the people that you surround yourself with at the beginning, because you're getting sort of, no offense, but you're sort of leaving the thoughts that they have behind. and then you can't fit in with the people that you want to be like, or you want to surround yourself with. So you're in a middle position where you're sort of, it's a bit lonely, really.
The lonely part of the journey.
And the lonely bit, that's what people struggle with, because, you know, like all the boys around you, whoever's around you, probably look at you and think, that's admirable what Corey's doing, but maybe none of them will do it, or one of them might do it. But why won't the majority of them do it? Because it's actually scary for them to think, well, maybe I'll feel lonely at some point. And the old mechanism thinks, well, if I'm lonely, that's not good for me.
And then they'll just
really,
go back. And
exactly, they'll stay stuck in their comfort cycle, when what you can do, we've self-selected to take ourselves out of those scenarios, plonk ourselves somewhere else, deal with the loneliness for a moment, but put the pieces of the puzzle back in at our own choosing. And that, I think that's a recipe for success, man. It really is. Like, if you can handle that little bit of loneliness,
it's the hero's journey.
It is. Yeah.
That's it. That lesson will keep repeating itself until, you know, and that's why most people end up miserable, like, and depressed, and they're resisting what they really want because they just can't get past a certain point. And there has to be a level of compassion for that as well.
The universe is knocking at the door, and they keep ignoring the knock, you know. They just keep ignoring it. I'll ignore that one.
Yeah, they'll just keep living their life, repeating the same cycle.
Yeah. And the question always becomes, is your life giving you the results that you really want? Because if you're sad, miserable, not really happy, deep down, then your life isn't giving you the results that you want.
Yeah.
So that is the litmus test, really.
But the best thing is you can change it at any point. And we have option now. It's so easy to access. You can move to the other side of the world. If you don't like where you are, leave. Like, it's...
We've never had as many options or as much choice in the world ever. Like, and I think that's the thing for me, you know, when it comes to building skills and it comes to building a career, like, there's nothing better than to just have options, you know.
Yeah.
When it gets to a certain point in life, you say, you know what, like, maybe I want to try something else. And you can. Like, you're not stuck doing something that you don't necessarily want to do anymore. It's huge, man. That's the lessons. Any other lessons that you can share with the peeps from London? Anything else that, like, surprised you? Something that, like, you didn't expect?
It's the same thing. Like, it's just new people and new environment. It's not, the way I live didn't really change. Just the people around me and where I went to work changed, and where I went to the gym changed. But, like, I'm doing the same thing.
The prices of coffee.
Price of a coffee went up, didn't it?
I see what I see in you as well, though. A benefit is, like, having your values set already there. Like, you already know your values. I think that's why you can just take yourself out of Sydney, plonk yourself in London, and you basically hit the ground running. Yeah. Because you knew your values set. Right, I need to focus on this, and this. Where it's different if you take yourself out of Sydney, plonk yourself in London, and go, oh shit, what do I do now? You know, and that's a very different experience. You know.
Yeah.
And they'll both shape you.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I'm glad I've done that work before, to be like, this is what I value and this is how I want to spend my time.
Otherwise we get pulled around. I think that's the one thing, getting back to what we talked about earlier in the podcast about barbers not really having a really formed strong opinion themselves. Yeah. You know, it's good to have strong opinions, but again, loosely held, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and then the loose opinion strongly held is where things can go a bit pear-shaped. But getting back to that, like, having strong opinions but loosely holding them will help us to stay centred when we're in the barbershop. If you're encountering 10 to 15 people a day who all have a different point of view on life, all have a different money story, all have different beliefs, and you're not solid in your own beliefs, if you don't know why you do things, you don't have values, and you don't know what you're trying to achieve out of it, you'll always be pulled to their beliefs. Like, so there'll always be a bit of dissonance or confusion, or like a feeling of, am I doing the right thing? Like,
you'll be so lost.
Yeah, so lost.
So what's that saying? I love this saying. It's a biblical saying. It said, if you don't choose a God will choose you. And like what? And they relate that down to like everything. So if you don't choose, and we can replace the word God with, like, they're saying, value set, right? If you don't choose your value set, a value set will choose you. Yeah. And that might look like addictions, clothes, whatever. If you don't choose what to worship, it will choose you. And we see that everywhere. Like, people don't know what they want to worship. They don't know what they value. They don't choose their God. Therefore, it chooses them. And it looks like cars, clothes, drinks, drugs, because they're like, well, I don't know. Life's just choosing it for them.
Yeah, well, like in the times like where I'm in London and I'm like thinking like there's barely been any times like it, but when I'm thinking like, am I in the right place? Like, am I doing it right? It takes me 30 seconds to be like, well, I know why I'm here. I know what I'm going to do here. Like when I'm thinking, oh, I miss my family or I miss home, I always just remind myself, I'll be like, well, I know why I'm here. I know when I'm going to go back. Like it's so easy to like just change my mindset. Like it's so easy to be like, well, I'm here for the right reasons, so let's just live it fully. Don't worry about what's going on back home. Like if you miss your family, obviously you're going to miss your family. Yeah. But like, you know why you're here and what you're here for. And if like once you get back, you can portray that to them and you can show them why you've done it. And it just makes it so, like makes it easy to be leadership. Like, I'm here for the right reason. Like if I came over here and I was like, oh, I don't really know, like if this is right for me. And as soon as I have that thought about, oh, I miss my family, I'll be like, oh, I just got to go back home. Mm. Whereas like I have that thought now for a minute and then I'll be like, I'll feel it and I'll be like, I miss them, but I'll be like, I know why I'm here. So let's do it. Like, let's keep going.
And it's very easy then to take advice, and it's also very easy not to take advice. Mm. And I think that's really important because like when we are exposed to so many opinions, you know, the majority of clients will come in with the lens of, I know more about life than you, so I'm going to teach you something. That's the way just general society sees barbers. They think that they can teach us something about business, for example, or about whatever. It's like, oh, you know, they think that whatever they do is superior because they got a higher job title in the pecking order of society.
Especially when they come sit in your chair, they're 10, 20 years older than you. Yeah. And they see a young guy who's a barber. Yeah.
They just think,
they just think you don't know.
They assume that they know more than you, right? So it's very easy to listen to them. You can still be polite but just over the head. Yeah. Like it goes in, it's like, okay, the filter is my why, my values. Yes, no. You know, and like where a lot of young people get stuck is like not knowing whether it's a yes or a no. Yeah. Especially people your age, Corey, like 22, like they're being pulled in all directions. They probably walk away from the end of a day of work thinking, fucking hell, like I don't know what life is about. Hence why they buy the Stony, hence why they buy the stuff to make them feel better about it, you know? Because they're what? Virtue signalling, status symbols. It's like, just because you got a nice car doesn't mean you're doing well. Just because you're wearing Stone Island doesn't mean you're doing well. Like I've been there. I've been that person. The reason I can speak about it is because I wore the stuff.
It usually means the opposite.
It usually means the opposite, yeah. I'm trying to like portray to people that I know what I'm doing. And it's like, man. And I think that's part of the spiritual journey of life. There's always going to be a part in our journey where we get confused by somebody will come along and either inspire us or expose us to a new piece of information, and we'll start to question what it is that we're doing. But if we haven't done the deeper inquiry and consistently doing the deeper inquiry, because it can change too, you know, your why, your values, they can change based on experience, and it's really important to be able to know that. Like especially for us, like we speak to people all the time, it's like, well, yeah, I'll take that or I won't take that. It's nice to be able to decipher a yes or a no for the direction that we want to go in. So it's important.
Yeah.
Especially in the barbershop, I can imagine, and like especially now you're dealing with a lot of new clients and people you don't know.
All new clients, right?
So like when you get used to a certain client set, the ones that you had in Sydney, you can kind of get to a point where you kind of understand them, they understand you. The conversation might sway a little bit and change, but not very often. Yeah. Whereas now it's like, I experienced this in Melbourne, coming from Ireland to Melbourne. It's like every person is like, there's new people all the time, every day. Yeah. And it's like, okay, they actually project their point of view of the world onto you. Like, and I just, man, I don't know what kind of human I'd be today if I had your skill set and mindset at 22. Like I only started cutting hair at 22, basically. Fucking hell, I don't know where I'd be today. Probably not here anyway. But I'm happy to be here. Yeah. You know, it's just part of the journey. That's just the way it is.
But yeah, slowly, like you can even see now being here for just over 3 months now. I can start to see like my clients, like they're just my people. Like they're just starting to sort of form. These people will come back because obviously you give them a good haircut. but they resonate with what you say and what you talk about. Whereas the people, you give them the best haircut, but like, it's just, you just know, like, just got different opinions or different outlooks.
There's so many dynamics.
They might come back to the shop, but they might get their haircut by someone else. Like, it's not that you gave them a bad service or you were polite and you gave them, they love the haircut, but it's just, you can just sort of, your people, they attract you. Like the boys say all the time in the shop, they go, so funny, like, for some reason, all the people that run come to Corey.
Surprise.
Well,
it's not really a surprise,
similar
is it?
types of people, yeah. And that's the thing too, like, you know, the ones, there's always clients, and I've experienced them over time, where they're ultra projective, like, of their opinion. And sometimes they just want somebody who's like, who they believe is below them to just fucking talk shit to them. And like, if you don't entertain it, they don't come back to you. I've had that over the years at Area.
I had loads.
Like, just like, they just want somebody to entertain that part of them. And if you don't, they just don't come back. You can give them the best haircut in the world, but it's not about the haircut a lot of the time. It's interesting.
Very, yeah. Once the haircut's at a certain level, it's not even really about, like, obviously you come to get a good haircut, but once that's the minimum, the bare minimum is a good haircut, it doesn't really matter anymore.
It becomes about everything else then. The overall, like, energetic experience, like, how does it feel for that person overall? Do I want to spend my time with these people? And as barbers, we can create that as well. You know, we don't have to just settle for anybody. I think a lot of the time, I've been talking about this lately, it's like a lot of the time barbers continue in their careers as if they're still practicing, and when we're practicing we just take anyone and everyone because we're focused so much on the skill set. But to continue that way is not great. Like,
there's a saying, isn't there? It's like, you know, this skill will get you at the table, but attitude will keep you at the table. You know, it's like, I see that with clients as well. Like, yeah, you can wow them with a great haircut, but like, if your attitude, you know, the attitude doesn't gel between you, they might only come for a couple of haircuts and then they'll be like, you know what, I'll just go to the other one. Yeah. Unless the person is just so self-absorbed that all they want is a good haircut and they just don't care about who does it, you know, which I've seen that too. But from experience, it gets to a point where it tipples over the other way, and it's about that alignment of attitude and belief and vision and all that kind of stuff.
And that's, again, long-term versus short-term thinking, I think.
Yeah. That's what's interesting about these kids right now, and this whole content thing that's going on right now. It's like, how deep is it on a human level? So how long is it going to last?
Isn't it? It's to a degree, it's like, just take anybody who'll pay you $100.
Yeah, anyone who's willing to pay me over $100, I'll just cut them, and then who cares how far that goes? That's why it's so important that you know what you do with your money, because if it doesn't last, it was all for nothing, essentially.
Yeah, it's so draining. If all the people that are coming to you are only coming to you because they're coming to get a $100 haircut,
or you've molded yourself into whoever they want you to be for the $100 as well. Fucking draining, man.
Well, if that doesn't, you know, they may get 2-3 haircuts out of those people. You can pull the wool over people's eyes with marketing for so long, but then it settles. It will settle at some point.
Yeah,
you know, it's only happening now because it's new. Like, we've never seen marketing like this before in the hair world. People are a bit wowed by it, and yeah, it'll settle though. It'll settle.
That's why the natural restoration of order will come back at some point.
Yep.
You know, like, there's the best strategy in the world is just knowing your why and knowing your values, and just making all your decisions through that.
Yeah, if you just put out what you are and you just be authentic with it, then the only thing that's going to come is
can't go wrong, can you?
Yeah. That's how you build a day that you enjoy in the barbershop with clients that you enjoy cutting. It's just be yourself online instead of trying to copy someone else.
Yeah. It's the least draining thing to do as well. You know, a lot of people talk about, I find social media so hard. It's like, yeah, the reason you find it so hard is because you're trying to be someone else. Like, if you weren't trying to be someone else, or apply a strategy so much, or focus so much on the tactics, you wouldn't find it so hard. Do you find it hard to fucking breathe? Like, or like, does your body find it hard for your heart to beat? Like, no, it does it automatically. Like, why can't everything else just become automatic as well? Like, and it's working up to that point because, you know, at a certain point, society created conditions for us which are acceptable or non-acceptable, and we're all working through that on some level. But, like, man, the world would become such an easier place if we were just all ourselves. unapologetically, you know. And sometimes it's like in the beginning of relationships, especially barber to client relationships, sometimes, you know, we have to understand that up to this point, clients have understood barbering to this level, and sometimes, you know, you got to show people the illusion until they're ready for the truth. And with that in the back of your mind, like, not compromising your own values in that, but like, we can't just bring them straight to the depths, pull them into the deep water, you know. Gotta give them some armbands first, you know, teach them how to swim. Yeah. Show them the illusion until they're ready for the truth. That can be really difficult, man. I struggle with that on a daily basis. Takes every bit of me not to go on Instagram some days and just rant. But then it's like, how beneficial is that going to be? It's not going to be beneficial, man.
People will just see it as, what's he talking about? He's gone crazy.
It's dogmatic behaviour. You just add into the collective negativity, aren't you? You know, and that's where a great leader comes in, and they can rise above it and go, guys, you're struggling. I can see that. Here's maybe a solve for that, you know. Mm. Same message, just said slightly differently. One said with love, one said with hate, you know. Mm. One's empowering, one's disempowering. Because if you go in and tell everybody how wrong they are all the time, they're just going to feel that and think you're a dickhead, no matter how true it is. Whereas if you can package it up with love and empowerment, then it feels totally different, and people go, oh yeah, I do struggle with that. Oh, thanks Corey for caring. Like, he provided the solve. Like,
yeah, and you said the same thing, but just in a different way.
He's like, it's exactly the same thing in a different way. That's what a great leader does, you know, and wrap up in story. And that's what we're seeing so much right now is like, you know, there's people just trying to tell everybody that they're wrong. Oh, here's the problem with hair education. Here's this, here's that. 3 signs. Here's how to choose your education. It's like, guys, what you're saying is everyone's wrong but you. Yeah. You're not saying it with love, packaging it up and just guiding people like, look, if this is something you struggle with, because not everybody does, here's my 3 steps to potentially making a slightly better decision for yourself. Like, but you take what you need to with that, you know? Because there's so much audacity in like the telling everyone they're wrong thing, especially around something that's made up in the first place. Like, hair's just completely made up. Like, how is any of it wrong? Yeah. Yes, there might be better practices, and if you're struggling, yes, I've got some solve for that, but at the end of the day, have at it. Like, do what you need to do. Yeah. Yeah. It's a funny old word out there.
And yeah, like, I mean, look, we're deepening our awareness on things all the time. I'm sure there's podcasts out there where you'll hear contradictive behaviours from us, but like, that's because we're growing and learning. I'm not just going to be convicted by something just because I don't want to be a contradiction. Yeah. You know, like, I'm happy to be a contradiction. You know, that's just the way it is.
And it just shows that you're growing. Like, if what you say on episode 100 is different to what you say on episode 1,
yeah,
it's a good thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, it would be fucking weird if I didn't, wouldn't it? Like,
because you're not stuck in your ways. It shows you that even like your perspective's changing, you're growing, becoming a different person.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. So that's great, guys.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Good stuff. Some great value in there for everybody. If you were to go back to your 19-year-old self when you first met us now, or when you first met us, and give yourself now some advice, what would you say?
I'd just say, step out of your comfort zone. Yeah, take a leap. Like, don't be. It sounds so cliche, but like, it's just basically, yeah. Don't settle for it. If you want to find out why it's like that, or if you want to find out something, go research it, explore it. Take the step. Yeah.
Make the investments.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, invest your time, invest your effort, invest your money, invest all. Yeah, absolutely, man. Mm. What would you say to the young barber listening to this who's confused by what's going on the internet these days and like where to take their career next? I think it's nice to hear it from somebody who's so young.
Yeah, I just say,
I feel like a grandpa sometimes when I'm talking about it, but I'm like, listen to me. Yeah, but like from a 22-year-old to the other young kids listening to it.
It's simple, really. It's just basically find the people that are doing things that you want to do and follow what they do and watch how they do it. If there's someone that's 10 years older than you and that's in a position that you want to be in 10 years, ask them how they do it. Just ask. if you don't ask, you won't get. You know what I mean? So yeah, just find the people that you align with and have the same values as you, and ask them how they did it.
Yeah, the help is everywhere.
Yeah,
I love that the 10x rule is important. I love that you brought that into it, because people can find people that are in a position that they want to be, but they might have only been there 2 years maybe. Yeah. You know, it's like when you got somebody who's got 10 years experience to your 1, they can say, yeah, I started that way, I was doing what that kid was doing, but it led to this, 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 and they can cut out a massive load of suffering for you. Yeah, it's magic. And Ty Lopez says that all the time. Use the 10x rule when you're looking for mentors. Yeah, you could get acute skills from people 1 or 2 years, but yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you, Corey.
Thank you, man.
We better get to bashing some barbers at the Barber Bash.
Bashing with the sitters.
let's do it.
But I'm sure we'll catch up again on the podcast.
Yeah,
on Unlimited. And I'm glad to and honoured to have been part of your journey so far. And I guess the way we're going to go with things and the future of our business is more towards Unlimited. I guess the reason why we do what we do is to help people see the world in a more unlimited lens. It's like, I can actually do anything here. I don't have so much limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
So it's a pleasure to watch your journey.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It was good.
Keep up the good work, man.
Who knows where we'll be next time?
Yeah. Who knows?
From Scotland to maybe Sydney. I don't know. It could be London. It could be Sydney. It could be anywhere. It could be Bali, even. Who knows?
Stay unlimited, friends.